You've got the best deals on delicious food. Order now.
In this great life, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but deep inside, when you look in the mirror at night, you know you are sad. And you are sad because your soul hurts, because you need God. When God becomes your ally, then no moral man is worth fear or even respect. I will destroy any moral man on the planet. I fear one person, and that is God alone. So God just broke your heart on purpose to show you that the way you're living your life and the man you are simply are not good enough. What have you changed since? You need to get up and work so hard that even in the eyes of God, He is proud of you. God loves His creations, which show Him their true potential and beauty. By getting up and trying your absolute best and becoming a man of moral standing, He will reward you and bless you. You are wasting your energy. Heartbreak is unlimited motivation. If I was heartbroken, I'd be in the gym every morning. I'd be a beast. I'd be running. I'd be working. I couldn't sleep. I'd be an absolute animal. I became me through tedious, arduous, difficult, never-ending work. You're failing God. If you were the best version of yourself and you were waking up every day trying your absolute best to be a unique and special individual, then you would not be failing God any longer. He would not plague you with this bad luck. You need to become a formidable force of man that cannot be replaced or replicated anywhere else on God's green earth. That's what you must do. This is going to repeat endlessly. It's a cycle that will not fucking change until you take the message from God and become the man you're supposed to be. If you wake up each day and go, I don't owe anybody anything, I don't have to prove anything to anybody, then you are a loser because you are absolutely incorrect. You must prove yourself to other people. You must prove yourself to God. God hates the lazy. He can't stand them. If He gives you all these genetic dispositions and these natural God-given gifts, if you have 2 arms and 2 legs and you can think, and you're not trying your absolute best, that's the reason you're not lucky. He doesn't like you. He likes the people which show Him the beauty of His own creation. He likes to give somebody building blocks and build something amazing. It's the best thing about being a man. You have to build who you are. Right? You can decide to be a funny comedian, or a musician, or a kickboxing world champion, or fight the Matrix. You can decide whatever you want to be. I've never seen anybody dedicate themselves to something. I've never seen somebody eat right, go to the gym every day, train really hard, and not do good shit. I've literally never seen it. The universe is extremely giving. If you actually try, and you actually want it, and you're actually not making excuses, lying, talking shit, you're going to get what you want. So when I see people who don't have what they want, I consider them losers. And this may be elitist, I understand that. But if I put myself through endless pain to end up where I am, it's very hard for me to have sympathy on the man who's afraid of pain. You're avoiding pain. I've been through endless. I now have everything I've ever desired. You have none of the things you desire. Am I supposed to feel sorry for you? Because you took the easy way out? Am I supposed to look at you and go, oh, poor dude? No. You were a fucking coward. You didn't go through the shit I went through. You didn't put it on the line. So you deserve your substandard reality. Because if you actually wanted it, and you actually tried, you have it. You can have anything you want. The universe is super giving. There's not a car I can't have. There's not a house I can't buy. I want to go to a yacht. I want to go to Antarctica. There's nothing I can't have. Bam. Because I've decided to become this man. It's the same for absolutely every single one of you at home. If you want it, you can have it. If you're sitting there saying, oh, but I tried my best and I still didn't get it, you're lying. You didn't try your best. That is a fucking lie. The universe gives it to everybody who genuinely tries. And I know that to be a fact because this world's competitive. We're all competing against each other. And the majority of people don't try. The world is hyper-competitive. If you're going to be a man who's going to sit and say, I'm just sad, you are always going to lose in competition to men like me. And there has to be losers for there to be winners. I am tired of sympathy. Sympathy doesn't work for anybody. I'm not going to sit here and be sympathetic to people who say they're too sad to try hard and do their best. Guess what? Perhaps I was sad every time I did exactly what I was supposed to do and trained anyway. Perhaps I was afraid when I fought anyway. Perhaps I was tired when I worked anyway. This is how you get ahead in life. I don't have a fucking ounce of sympathy for these people who sit here and say, well, I feel this way, so I can't. Then don't do it. Stay down there. The winners are at the top. The winners at the top don't give a shit about how they feel. We wake up and we perform regardless of how we feel, day after day. So if I'm going to ignore my own feelings, I'm certainly not going to take into consideration anybody else's. Yeah. Why am I going to ignore how I feel and make sure I'm constantly performing regardless, flawlessly? And then sit and go, oh, but he doesn't feel good, so he's allowed to fuck up. No, you are not. You're not allowed to fuck up to your ancestors or to God or to yourself. You have to perform. This is what being a man is about. The baseline of masculinity is doing things you don't feel like doing. I can't comment on being a woman because I'm not one. But the baseline of masculinity as a whole is the thing that makes a good man a man is that he does what he doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to work and he works anyway. He doesn't want to go to war and he fights anyway. He doesn't want to get up, he gets up anyway. That's the whole point of it. We didn't want to die in the Titanic. Guess what happened? We died in the Titanic. You can't sit there as a man and say you don't feel like it. You're not allowed to not feel like it. You're supposed to do it anyway, regardless. Yeah. So when a man sits there and says, oh, you don't understand, I'm struggling with motivation. If you are struggling with the motivation to be a winner, then stay a loser. No problem. Stay a loser. Don't care. Because in my circle, there's no losers around me. Your energy is disgusting. I find it revolting. I don't like weakness around me, even near me. Even people coming up saying hello to me. If you're depressed, don't even shake my hand. I do not have time for losers of any regard. Winners only. The person wakes up, does work, he's fantastic at it. Takes 3 days off. You're going to lose. They say that hard work beats talent. Talent doesn't work. You have to be consistent. You'll suck. Or you're the kind of person who make a lot of money. Or you're the kind of person that wants to look back when he's 30, when he's 20, when he's 40, when he's 30. Okay, what did I do? Well, I didn't get rich. I didn't travel the world, live like they did. What did I do? Well, I had a day off here, a day off there, a bunch of nothing days, and amalgamate a decade of nothingness. You're just wasting your time. If you want to win with tasks, you don't need to be the smartest. Not at all. You have to be the guy who's more than you. I guarantee you, right now, IQ has nothing to do with how successful you are. What's good to determine how successful you are. Are you there every single day? Are you doing what you're supposed to do day after day? I can also pledge to say this. I knew guys who were terrible. I knew my dad say this was cold. I was nice. There's some other guys who just man, they feel like this one. Weird people, terrible. When I say terrible, I mean they had a thick accent, didn't speak English that well, didn't know the script that well, didn't know the answers. But they were always in the top 20% of the company because they just hammered the phone. They just were on it. They needed to feed their family in Bangladesh. They didn't give a fuck. They were just calling. That's it. Day after day. When you were on lunch break, he was on the phone. You can win hard work alone. That's what's amazing about the universe when I say that. God will give you anything you truly want. If you truly want money, if you truly try hard, if you truly listen to us, you are going to have as much money as you possibly can. But if you think you want money, you kind of want something else, or you're arrogant, or you're lazy, you're going to end up somewhere in the middle if you're lucky and talented. If you're not talented, so you don't want to be a normal dude. If you're a normal dude, you're a loser. You don't get to do amazing things. What's interesting is none of you have had a normal life. You've had a unique and individual life path. Things you've gone through, nobody else on the planet has gone through. You've lived certain experiences, the school you went to, the time you were picked on in that class, the girl who broke your heart. Every single thing you've been through is unique. A fingerprint. A completely unique life. And somehow you managed to stay completely non-unique. It's almost impressive how you can have a completely unique life experience and still end up acting like yourself. How did you do that? Your life's different than everyone else's, and you still look and walk and sound
work with over 5,000 apps, so you can still use the tools and keep your business growing. Automation gives you the flexibility to scale your workflows when your big goals get bigger. So you can watch your lead and revenue charts go up and to the right. Automation isn't magic, it's Zapier. Get started for free.
I think the universe is absolutely and utterly giving. I've never seen anybody dedicate themselves to something completely and fail. I've never seen somebody eat right, go to the gym every day, train really hard, and not do the shit. I've literally never seen it. The universe is extremely giving. If you actually try, and you actually want it, and you're actually not making excuses, lying, talking shit, you're going to get what you want. So when I see people who don't have what they want, I consider them losers. And this may be elitist, I understand that. But if I put myself through endless pain to end up where I am, it's very hard for me to have sympathy on the man who's free of pain. You're avoiding pain. I've been through endless. I now have everything I've ever desired. You have none of the things you desire. Am I supposed to feel sorry for you? Because you took the easy way out? Am I supposed to look at you and go, oh, poor dude? No. You were a fucking coward. You didn't go through the shit I went through. You didn't put it on the line. So you deserve your substandard reality. That's what you deserve. You're a fucking loser. Because if you actually wanted it, and you actually tried, you'd have it. You could have anything you want. The universe is super giving. You want a fucking Ferrari, you can have it. You want that bitch, you can have her. You can have anything you want on the planet. There's not a girl I look at that I want that I can't have. Not one. That's my reality. There's not a car I can't have. There's not a house I can't buy. If I want to go to a yacht, if I want to go to Antarctica, there's nothing I can't have. Bam. Because I've decided to become this man. It's the same for absolutely every single one of you at home. If you want it, you can have it. If you're sitting there saying, oh, but I tried my best and I still didn't get it, you're lying. You didn't try your best. That is a fucking lie. The universe gives it to everybody who genuinely tries. And I know that to be a fact because this world's competitive. We're all competing against each other. And the majority of people don't try. Like, I've achieved this amazing life and I've tried very, very hard. But it could have been harder. I mean, was it that hard? About 86% hard. It wasn't 100% hard. Why? Because the competition's zero. Everyone is a fucking loser. It's amazing to me. Everyone's a loser. I can say to somebody, listen, I'll make you a millionaire. Do this. Oh, yeah, but the kids are home from school now. That's it. They're done. And then they'll sit and go, oh, I really wish I had some money. You are a loser. I will sit here on this podcast. People will listen to me for hours. And I will say, listen, I have hundreds of millions of dollars, and I will teach you how to make money. Covergate.com, I have a school, university designed specifically to teach you how to make money. I clearly know how to do money. You clearly like what I say. You obviously believe I'm intelligent and integral and don't lie to you. And still, a whole bunch of people will sit there and go, yeah, anyway, next video. And then they'll say, can't afford a Ferrari, and wonder why. They'll be confused in their minds how they didn't end up getting what they want. Because you're a fucking loser. That's why. And the majority of people are losers. And this goes back to why, when we were saying earlier, how I know the elites view us. Because I'm from a council estate in Luton, single parent household. And I've only been rich 10 years or so. And I despise losers. So imagine you're a billionaire born into a family, a lineage which has controlled Earth for hundreds of years. Imagine how much they despise us. Do you think they give a fuck about putting a bullet in me? Do you think they're going to have any sleep at night missed? Do you think they give a solitary fuck about you missing your fucking parents' funeral because of the common cold? They don't give a solitary shit. Why would they? Because I already know how I feel when I listen to losers complain. Because this is what happens at a certain level of competence and power. You just get to a point where you're like, I'm tired of hearing your fucking excuses. That's bullshit. And you become to a degree, yeah, cold and psychopathic. It's true. That's what happens. And I get it all the time. I get thousands of emails a day. Everyone I grew up with, people I know, I get it all the time. They'll message me, hey man, just unlucky. You are not unlucky. You are a lazy fucking loser. That's ones are gone. You're lying if you are a lazy loser. So a loser is anybody who does not have everything they want at the drop of a hat. That's what I call it. Because I have absolutely everything I could ever possibly desire. And if I wanted something that I couldn't have, I guarantee you, speed in a few months and I'm fucking have it. I guarantee you. Because if I want something I can't have it, I can't sleep. When I was broke, I couldn't sleep. I don't know how there's broke people out here sleeping just fine at night. Going, oh, you know, inflation is 20%, gas prices are 6 times, everything on the news is a lie. I never stand a chance of ever getting rich. Where's my pillow? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? I go to bed at night as a teenager and think, I looked it up on the internet. It was a Honda Civic Type R. I wanted one. It was 38,000 pounds. I had no money. Less than 50 pounds on my bank. Couldn't afford it. Then I looked up how much a Ferrari cost. 210,000 pounds. And I said to Tristan, my cousin brother, I was like, there are people with 210,000 pounds for a car. He's like, yes, so? I'm like, no, not so. How? If I worked my job for 6 years and saved every penny, if I walked to work and didn't eat, I couldn't buy this car. How are people doing this? I couldn't sleep at night when I was broke. I knew that everything was a lie. I knew the Matrix was lying to me. I knew I had to find a way out. I was sitting there going, I refuse to live my human years and be some second-class citizen peasant when there's people out here who get to do whatever the fuck they want. I couldn't tolerate it, and I was so uncomfortable that it gave me the motivation I needed to escape. But the people who go, oh yeah, nice Ferrari, yeah. Back to the TV. Dummies. Losers. And the thing about the world is, we need losers. I'm not mad at losers. If that's the reality you've chosen to live, you get one spin in this version of life, and you decide you want to be a loser, that's fantastic because my cars need cleaning, you know, my hotel room needs cleaning, I have a party with all these beautiful women that's been a mess. Please, go pick it up. Somebody needs to do that shit. I ain't gonna fucking do it. If I had to walk into a hotel room and clean up after some other man's party, I guarantee you I'd do whatever it fucking took to become rich so I didn't have to do that shit. You want to do that for 20 years? Thanks, friend. Someone's gonna flip the fucking burgers. Someone has to make the fries. I want a Happy Meal now and again. But I don't feel sorry for you people because you fucking deserve it because it's a decision you made. You made that decision. If you're sitting at home and you say, I don't want to be a loser, you know what to do. I told you how to escape the Matrix. Go to tape.com. Join. I'll teach you. But if you're sitting there going, nah, maybe this guy with hundreds of millions of dollars is trying to scam me out of 25 pounds. I can never be depressed if I never slow down. Speed is extremely important. Speed defies gravity. How does a plane fly through the air and defy gravity with speed? It's moving too fast to fall. If you're always attacking life, if you're always doing things, if you're always making more money, if you're always traveling the world, doing this, doing that, new car, here, there, new podcast, meeting James English, boom, boom, boom. You know, if you're always doing things all the time, unhappiness can't catch you. But I also know that speed is a fantastic way to be happy all the time. I'm always looking forward to something. I wake up every day excited. I'll go do this today. I'll go do this today. I'll do this today. And I very much live my life in a frame of, no, I have to do this. It's very much a, I get to do this. There's another thing that a lot of people make a mistake with when I talk to them, like, I have to go to work today. Change your language. I get to go to work today. Imagine that, don't you? It'd be worse, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't be working. So you get to go to work. I have to fix the car. Well, you should have a car. You get to fix your car. Those people don't know one. I have to go get the kids. You get to go get the kids because you have these beautiful children who love you. You understand? People's even their own language is wrong. The world can be framed. Maybe I'm completely crazy. Maybe I'm full of shit. Like you said, maybe I am. But the frames I've installed in my mind are all beneficial to me. So if that makes me crazy and full of shit, good. Because I can't become depressed. So you can sit there and tell me I'm full of shit while you're depressed, and I'm happy. And I would never want to adopt the thinking of a depressed person. People will shield laziness with anything. No one wants to admit they're lazy. So they'll shield it with disbelief. That's a scam. Or, I don't work hard, I work smart. Bollocks, more cover. Just anything it takes to say, I don't want to work. Do you believe that work smart or harder? I believe in both. Yeah. But there's a time when it comes to working smart. And most people are trying to do the smart work before they do the hard work. It's kind of like talent, right? You don't notice if you're talented at something till all the hard work's done.
Yep.
I can be the most talented tennis player in the world, but I don't play tennis. So if I go down the tennis court, Joe Schmo's going to smoke me. I don't get to see my talent until I've worked so hard that I'm in the top 1%, and now I'm beating them because I have some God-given gift.
Yeah.
You understand? You have to do the hard work first. If there's no hard work, there's no smart work. So someone's going to sit there and go, I work smart, I don't work hard, so I only have to work an hour a day. If working smart gets you a lot done in an hour a day, then you should work smart for 12 hours a day and get 12 times the work done. I am absolutely and utterly a believer in hard work. I'm a proponent of hard work. I have all this money and all I do is work. My entire life is work. This podcast is work. I'm getting in the car and going to another meeting, work. I want to go to the gym so I'm in good shape, work. It's all work. My entire life is work. And people don't want to look at life that way. They want to talk about work-life balance and being lazy and all this crap. And I don't believe in any of that. I believe in if you want to win, you have to outcompete the man who's prepared to do nothing but work. It's player versus player. If you're going to sit there and go, I don't want to work more than an hour a day, well, the guy who does want to work more than an hour a day is going to beat you. And no matter how smart you are, there's always a smart dude who's doing the same smart work you are for more hours than you're doing it. That's just the nature of the game. It's the way that humans work, the way that we are evolved as a species, is that we don't really learn lessons unless they're learned the hard way.
Yeah.
I believe that unless a lesson is taught the hard way, you're not going to learn it. You can have so many near misses and people won't learn their lesson. Bro, you must know a guy who goes out there, nearly crashes his car, nearly crashes his car, nearly crashes his car, doesn't slow his ass down till he wrecks it.
Yeah.
Like, this is how people are, right? So you need that pain for the lesson to sting enough to really genuinely go inside of your mind. And it's the same with everything. It's the same with driving a car or business. Truthfully, if you want to learn a lesson about business, you're going to have to suffer at some point, right? So we always say that most people are not successful with their first companies, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. I get that. The truth is, there's a lot of people that make a lot of money with their first company, but they just spunk it, act an idiot. And that's how you get the discipline on your fourth company, that when you have $3 million in the bank, you just leave it there. You know, and don't be done with it. So you need to go through some pain. You need to experience some negative things. You need to have to a degree some trauma to really even learn any lessons. So yeah, business studies. You're right. The book that's not going to teach you anything about business. You need to get out there on the streets. You need to make the mistakes. You need to suffer. You need to have the tax man knocking at your door. You got to deal with all that stuff so that you make sure it doesn't happen again. I really think that humans are stupid enough to only learn the hard way. And life really doesn't have to be that complicated. When you see somebody that has something you want, you just got to try to work out how they got it.
Yeah.
And that's the missing part. Most people see people who think they want, and they don't do the second thing. They don't try to work out how they got that thing. Oh, my man has a Ferrari. Okay. I wish I had a Ferrari. Okay. They don't sit there and go for an hour. How did he get a Ferrari? It doesn't cross that part is the part they don't want to do, right? They just go, oh, he's a Ferrari, wish I had a Ferrari, and they go back to TV.
Yeah.
That's why they lose. It's player versus player out here, man. It's on the street. It's not easy. For every dollar you make, for every pound you take, you're taking from someone else. You don't make money, you take money. People don't understand the way that money works. You're not the Federal Reserve. You can't create money from thin air. Every single pound in your bank is money you took from someone else. And when I say take, I don't mean it in a negative way. You might have convinced them to give it to you. You might have a coffee shop. I'll give you a nice coffee. You give me some money. Cool. You still took his money, right? So if you're out here trying to take stuff from other people, don't you want to have a team? Go do it by yourself. You'll be Rambo.
Because if you get two of you doing it.
You get two of you. That's right. So the whole idea of this lone soldier, this Rambo, I'll do it all by myself, that's all dead. You need to have a team. It's player versus player. For the same reason, if you were out here on the street and want to defend yourself, you want your boys around you. It's the same thing with trying to get rich. If you're laughing with your boys, the brokey days are great. I'm not complaining about being rich. Obviously, I work hard for this. It's a fantastic life I live now. But I think without those brokey days, without those original days to compare it to, without that juxtaposition, then I don't think being rich would be fun at all. I think it's only fun because you can compare it to the days when you weren't rich. That's the only thing that makes it fun. The only thing that makes a $10,000 steak fun is that you can laugh saying how you never had 10 grand in your bank until you were 27 years old.
Yeah.
Like otherwise it's boring. Otherwise it's okay, steak. And I think if you're born with too much money, then you'll never truly be happy. I think you need the broken days, the best days.
You meet somebody wealthy, then your family at one point was not wealthy. And then the one shows up. One person changed the family tree forever. In my family, I'm the one. And it wasn't because I wanted it or I hoped for it. I fought for it. I want to fight for my family. I want my mom and dad proud of me. I want me proud of me. I want to look in the mirror and be happy with the man I look back at. that he gave it everything, that he went for it. That's what I want for you. I want you to be happy with you, not cool. I've seen all kinds of cool guys my whole career. Cool guys go broke. They have a good 2 or 3 years. Players who implement strategies that get focused and intense, they win decades. You gotta win year after year after year. I'm almost 50 years old, man. I've got a loaded calendar. I'm after it. I'm not casual. I want to win. You hear me? Wake up! You want to win? You want to be a millionaire? You gotta quit being so casual. You talk slow. You implement things slow. You talk. Talk a good game, like you're gonna be somebody. Business is a sport. It's competitive.
Goldman Sachs is what you think of when you hear the words banking, Wall Street, and market crash. The investment banking group is over 150 years old, but has kept its name since setting up way back in 1869. It's a money-making machine that has invested in the likes of Spotify and Dropbox and was the lead bookrunner of Twitter's IPO. It's even committed almost $2 billion to philanthropic initiatives. But the name Goldman Sachs is also synonymous with corruption, market manipulation, offshore tax havens, and insider trading, to name a few of his controversies.
U.S. court today for violating U.S. money laundering laws and the foreign corrupt practices.
The department filed criminal charges in New York against the Goldman Sachs Group and its Malaysian subsidiary, charging each with conspiracy to violate the anti-bribery provisions of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act.
Yet, for all these good deeds and sins, the giant of commerce wasn't started by a hedge fund manager or stockbroker, but a humble immigrant with a knack for business and a hunger for the American dream. So, how did a German immigrant build what would become an international powerhouse of finance? How unethical is the company? Will it be around forever, or will it finally get its comeuppance? Well, it's time to learn how history works, as we unravel the history of Goldman Sachs.
Yan, yung nakikita,
My yogurt.
dahil BVS, alam mo yan, kahit maraming pagpipilian, yung burger ko to. Dahil BVS, alam mo yan, choose only the BVS. Jollibee Young Burger, alam mo yan.
We now turn your attention away from our scheduled programming to bring you a message from our sponsor, Compounded Daily. Friends, each week there's a bundle of riveting tales that regrettably can't make their debut here, all due to the whims of the YouTube algorithm. But fret not. By enlisting in my brand new and absolutely free email newsletter, you'll be in the know with stories like the intriguing inception of a VC fund by our allies at NATO. This newsletter, dear viewers, will traverse the exciting worlds of finance, business, and economics, ensuring you're always in the loop. If the topic seasoned veteran in the change in civil rights laws saw a change in the way Americans live their lives. The Suez Canal was built, the Brooklyn Bridge finished construction. Truly prosperity was on the horizon. It was the time of the Gilded Age, and Marcus Goldman knew it. The 48-year-old German-Jewish immigrant had come to America as a refugee from his home country to escape hard times, and in search of better opportunities for his family. He arrived in 1848 without knowing anyone and having only a basic skill in speaking English. He initially settled in Philadelphia and began peddling wares as a traveling salesman. But pushing that cart up and down the street wasn't giving his family the life they needed, nor the respect he wanted. His desire was to be a businessman. So in 1869, he uprooted his wife and 5 children and moved them to New York City. He was following the exodus of German Jews because Manhattan was seeing a rise in immigration due to the post-war boom. There were more opportunities, especially on Wall Street. However, Goldman had no real background in finance. Nonetheless, he got his foot in the door by renting a small office on Pine Street with a sign out front that read, M. Goldman, Banker and Broker. This may have been a brash move for some.
But Marcus had displayed a talent for numbers all his life. So if he was good at peddling items door to door, then he could peddle numbers bank to bank, right? His start was in buying promissory notes, which are basically fancy IOUs from merchants in need of ready cash and selling them to bankers uptown for profit. At the time, bank loans were hard to get, yet small companies needed help to turn their accounts receivables into cash. Marcus jumped on this demand by supplying a service. The operation was small time, but the specialism in an appealing area of the industry gave Goldman little competition and enough recognition to slowly but surely scale his company. His small loans of liquidity to tanners and jewelers snowballed into a tight-knit, profitable family business for the next 10 years. Then a new family entered the fold, the Sachs. Marcus befriended Joseph Sachs many years before during synagogue classes in their native Würzburg. In time, Sachs would move to the U.S. too, and some of his 5 children would marry some of Marcus's 5 children. Rosa Goldman became Mrs. Julius Sachs, and Samuel Sachs would marry Louisa Goldman. An interesting side note, they each had a child called Julius, whereas Marcus had Henry and Joseph had Harry. Think of them like the 19th century version of the Brady Bunch. Back to the topic. Marcus's business had been growing so much that he wanted someone to help run it with him, which was how he came to pick his son-in-law Samuel, who was regarded as a moral and honest man. And thus, on September 20th, 1882, Goldman Sachs was born. By 1896, the firm would have $1.6 million in capital shared among 5 partners. The third partner to join shortly after Marcus teamed up with his son-in-law was Harry Goldman. Later, he would run the company with Samuel when Marcus retired. Their tenure together shaped the company dramatically in the next 30 years to come, including the start of the controversies. The conflict between the brothers-in-law benefited the company. Henry's adventure brought them to new opportunities, but Samuel's conservative approach avoided catastrophe. This was perfect timing because their niche market was becoming saturated with competition. They needed new ventures to stay ahead of the curve. One such venture was to take companies public. In short, when a private company wants to go public, it means that they need to IPO, which is most often handled by an investment bank. This is known as underwriting, which was Goldman Sachs' next big step forward. Initially, they wanted to underwrite railroads, but they were warded off by stiff competition like J.P. Morgan. So instead, they focused on smaller commercial companies like cigar sellers and even Macy's. But the first company they helped go public was Sears, whose valuation at the time was a modest $40 million in 1906. Of course, it helped that Henry was friends with Julius Rosenwald, the owner of the department chain. IPOing a company at this time was a huge risk. So, to levy the chance of failure, Goldman Sachs partnered up with Lehman Brothers to underwrite $30 million in common stock and a further $1 million of preferred stock. If fortune favors the brave, then Goldman Sachs was fearless because the IPO was a big success. Both firms had a big payday and also saw their reputation attract more clients from bigger firms. It's now 1914, and Goldman Sachs has become an investment bank on Wall Street. They were officially in the big leagues. And with all that cash to reinvest, the Roaring Twenties was perfect timing yet again. Except for Henry. Even though he facilitated that deal, which brought the family business into Wall Street, his open support for Germany in the run-up to World War I wasn't kosher. No doubt those family dinners were much more fraught than usual, especially since rival J.P. Morgan had been funding the Allied cause. In his defense, Henry's family and culture were German, so it's understandably why his patriotic reflexes tilted towards his ancestry, even though other members of the Sachs family wanted to support their new home of America. In the end, Henry resigned, and the company sailed off into the sunset without him. What a sunset it was! Markets were soaring, optimism was high, champagne was flowing. So Goldman Sachs seizes the moment by investing $1 million into a trading company and selling the shares to the public at 10 times the price. They returned $93 million with their original investment, now worth 10 times the amount. But why stop there? If they can make an investment return like this out of thin air, why not make another, or another? After all, people were willing to buy them. Just like the early days of Marcus Goldman, when he was pushing his car up the street, the old adage of supply and demand applies now as it did then. Let's hope a market crash doesn't come along to ruin the party. October 29, 1929, the start of the Great Depression, practically evaporates all of Goldman Sachs' money. There were accusations of share price manipulation and insider trading. So was this hubris for market meddling or paranoia during an economic downturn? Perhaps it was character assassination from jealous rivals who were more battered by the market crash? In the next year, more investment firms went bust, and with it investors, investment banks, and anyone else trapped in the house of cards. Yet Goldman Sachs survived. How? Answer: Sidney Weinberg. The third of 11 children from a poor family in Brooklyn, Sidney had been forced to leave high school early to help support his impoverished household. He started working at Goldman Sachs as the janitor's assistant, but 15 years later, his grit got him to the top. It was his wit and charm that persuaded General Electric to go public. His clients liked him so much that they stayed with him even when Goldman Sachs went belly up, and had the reputation dragged through the mud. Over the next years, Goldman Sachs gradually pulled itself back together. Then came the 1950s, when Sidney led them on what would be their boldest move yet, convincing Ford Motors to go public. There was little doubt that the IPO would make an investment banker filthy, stinking rich. But it wouldn't be easy. Ford distrusted Wall Street. It was gambling and a rigged game against ordinary folks. That's why J.P. Morgan Jr. had failed to take Ford public at one point. But what would be a bigger challenge was Henry Ford was an outspoken, one could say devout, anti-Semite. He continued to be one even after the end of World War II. You'd be right in thinking that a Jewish-owned family company of bankers had no chance whatsoever of getting Ford to change his mind about Wall Street, which is why they didn't. 9 years after Henry Ford died, they approached his grandson, Henry Ford II, to make the deal. It was the deal of the century, and the Jewish company doing business with a company whose founder had been a racist became a sea of change in Wall Street. Now, the only thing more important than money was winning, even if you had to cheat. Gus Levy was born in 1910 in New Orleans to a middle-class household. He made a name for himself as a trader in New York and became a well-regarded partner at Goldman Sachs at the age of 30. His specialty was block trading. The idea is this: when an investor sells a large amount of shares, it can cause the market to react unpredictably. So by privately negotiating a sale at a discount, a trader can then ride the fluctuations of the economy to resell off remaining shares at a profit. Simple, right? It's now the 1960s, and Sidney Weinberg is retiring, and Gus Levy becomes heir to the Goldman Sachs empire. For the next decade, he makes block trading a major source of revenue for the company, but trading more and more at a larger scale made them vulnerable. One mistake cost them everything. Then came 1968, and with it, the formation of Penn Central becomes the largest railroad company in the country with a staggering $1.2 billion in debt. But it needs more to operate. Goldman Sachs is hired to issue $100 million in commercial paper. Not only does the company finally get to underwrite a railroad company, but investors line up when they hear Goldman Sachs is backing a safe investment. Unfortunately for them, Penn Central fails to generate enough revenue to maintain its railroad tracks and equipment. The company goes bankrupt. Those who invested in the commercial paper are almost taken out completely, so they sue Goldman Sachs for misrepresentation. Goldman Sachs was the one who evaluated the risk, and it was them who pushed for the deal, so their hubris cost them 20 cents on the dollar. Yet, they came out on top. How? Goldman Sachs said that the payments were covered by insurance. The 1970s saw more of Goldman Sachs' securities go rotten. Settling million-dollar lawsuits became the norm. But now, the company has gone from boutique investment bank to elite institution. These times in court did little to sink the company. Sure, it was wounded, but it was still standing. Even the death of Levy from a stroke during a business trip did little to tank the company, because even though no secession plan was left behind, it's clear who the next leader would be: John Whitehead. The ex-Navy commander implements his military training into the company culture so that the firm can get back to first principles. One of his drills was to test subordinates to see how long they would wait for a meeting with him. Naturally, some left after a few hours, but in the end, the remaining ones came to learn that if they need to reach a big client, they must be conditioned to wait in their lobby for as long as it takes.
If you need to write a business plan, you need to try Venture Planner. Just answer the questions and watch as it transforms your answers into a comprehensive business plan tailored specifically to your vision. And the best part, you don't have to type a
Under Whitehead, the client came first. A sense of duty and diligence had re-entered the culture of Goldman Sachs for the first time since Marcus dragged his cart up and down the streets of Philadelphia, and it paid off. By 1983, the company was raking in $400 million. That was a staggering 60% increase from the previous year. At the height of his success, he retired to work for Ronald Reagan. Now, the torch was passed to Robert Rubin, who stayed CEO for 2 years, before passing the buck to Stephen Friedman, another 2-year CEO. Why was their tenure so short? Hadn't they just inherited the keys to the biggest money-making machine on Wall Street?
I've been here in '85. I've lived through, I think, 6, 7 CEO transitions. So
Well, it was because someone was after them. Rudy Giuliani. It's 1987, and a senior partner in the company has just been busted for insider trading. His perp walk is splashed all over the papers, so now Goldman Sachs' reputation is in the gutter once again. But they've bounced back before, and their customers know it. So as long as Goldman Sachs keeps making money, then all those corporations on their books have nothing to worry about, right? In fact, Rubin managed to get out of the banking world to enter politics before it was too late, this time working for Bill Clinton. So by 1993, Goldman Sachs' profits were up to $2.7 billion, mainly due to trading by putting their clients' interests first and having a few backdoor deals, it seems. But that only lasts a decade. You see, even with their $98 billion of assets, senior partners are retiring, so the company needed to find a new stable way to hold on to capital so that they won't be knocked down if too many partners took too much out too soon. You know what they did, right? Of course you do. You've been paying attention. They went public. There was just one problem: Russia. It's 1998, and the biggest country in the world does what no economist thought would ever happen. They stopped servicing their debt. A sovereign country defaulting on its debt didn't fit into any economic model. Other investment banks started hemorrhaging money, so Goldman Sachs dumps their bonds onto the market to accelerate the downfall. Thankfully, the Federal Reserve steps in and bails the billionaires out. It's up to you to decide whether it was worth avoiding another financial crisis, because all that Goldman Sachs cared about was surviving. And with Goldman Sachs back on firm ground at the end of 1999 and at the height of the dot-com bubble, Goldman Sachs goes public. This means everyone is finally able to see the paperwork providing just how much profit the company has been making and how much was paid out to partners. Spoiler alert, it's a lot. Now, Goldman Sachs just needed an even newer way to make money. And what market was booming at the turn of the millennium? Mortgage-backed securities, aka the reason Hollywood made the movie The Big Short. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know the housing bubble triggered the 2007-2008 financial crisis, which was the most serious economic catastrophe since the Great Depression. This crisis bankrupted Lehman Brothers, the very same firm that helped Goldman Sachs all those years ago. It's worth noting that just before the bubble burst, the then boss of Goldman Sachs, Henry Paulson, did what every boss did before him: leave the company at their peak to enter politics. Hank Paulson was made the Secretary of the Treasury by George Bush Jr. That may explain how Goldman Sachs got another round of bailout money, but it didn't explain how they paid out record employee bonuses in 2009. Then again, those profits likely came from the company betting against the housing market while it was selling weak securities to people it knew couldn't pay them back. But is that more tinfoil hat conspiracy? Since then, the Wolf of Wall Street culture has been exposed. The company has gone through the courts with gender discrimination cases and sexual harassment lawsuits aplenty. Former employees have become whistleblowers, claiming the ethos of putting the clients first is long gone. One whistleblower said that clients were referred to as muffins behind closed doors, and seniors joked about ripping them off. Insider trading continues to dog the company, as does the revolving door with politics. And what about the conspiracy to allow $1 billion of bribes to obtain business from the Malaysian Sovereign Wealth Fund? It's up to you to decide whether Goldman Sachs is the largest money laundering facility in the world, or whether the scale of the operation is always going to attract bad apples. But one thing's for sure: the company that started with a small-time lender helping ordinary folk start their own business has now become an elitist behemoth that chews up ordinary folks and spits them out, all in the name of profit. So, was Henry unfairly thrown under the bus by the company who did business with the Fords? So, how did Rudy Giuliani spoil the fun for Goldman Sachs? And was he truly a hero? Well, go watch our video on Rudy Giuliani to learn more about how the mayor of New York lived long enough to see himself become the villain. And be sure to subscribe to keep on learning how history works.
Do you need more power, more control? Then you need VPS hosting from Hostinger. Say goodbye to server limitations and access more storage, more memory, more bandwidth and speed, more for your money. Free real-time snapshot and 3 weekly automatic backups. More security, less DDoS, more intelligence, AI assistance, and customer support. Get more of everything you need, pay less than you'd expect, and get your server online in minutes. Go to hostinger.com and get more. Trusted by millions worldwide. Hostinger. 3, 2, online.
Uh, what you want from me?
Through cutthroat competition and self-interest,
Valorant pa.
one firm has managed to survive for more than a century, and in the process, become the symbol of Wall Street.
Dili siya
Much
pilit
admired,
kung magkuhan.
much
Dala.
hated, and
Sa?
the best risk
Ang
managers
pilit
on Wall Street.
bagkuhan ka ng kibali. Ay pila ganyan ni ka hertz? 144 no? Dili siya magnaog-naog. Or constant gig siya kuhan ng 144.
Moro ang gyapon may kalahian. 200 ang gyapon akong kuan sa paningulok ko. Kaya nga na dahil magkuhan dahil sa imo dahil 165 itong imo.
So nakaiwa 240 siya.
Normal naman gud.
Yung kadugayan kini kuhan nagnaog ang
Diyan pag bugat naman. Kuan naman occupied naman yung mga memory.
In 1886, after making a small fortune from his clothing business, the Jewish immigrant Marcus Goldman decided to get into finance. He sees the need for small businesses to turn their accounts receivables into cash quickly. At the time, bank loans are harder to get for these small businesses. He will offer to buy their short-term debt at a discount and resell them later to other investors and bankers at a higher price. These short-term loans later became what's called commercial papers. Around that time, it was the beginning of the investment banking industry. Unlike commercial banks that provide more guaranteed and safe financing, firms like Goldman Sachs provide riskier financing, hence the term investment banks. 10 years later, Marcus Goldman grows his business to selling around $30 million in commercial papers per year. At the age of 60, Goldman has already surpassed the average life expectancy. And to make sure the family business thrives after he retires, he brings on his son-in-law, Samuel Sachs, as a partner. By 1896, Sachs grows the firm to have $1.6 million in capital, shared among 5 partners. But the business of issuing and trading commercial papers is quickly becoming saturated. To grow, they need to find the next big thing. By the late 19th century, it is